I'm Jonathan Morduch, Managing Director of the Financial Access Initiative. Today I'm speaking with Professor Bhagwan Chowdhry, who teaches finance at UCLA's Anderson School of Management. Dr. Chowdhry is also the founder of Financial Access at Birth, an idea that has caught the attention of The Economist magazine and CNN. The idea of Financial Access at Birth, FAB, is to combine three activities for every baby born on the planet. 1. Give each baby a universal identification number that can stay with them for life. 2. Give each child a savings account. And 3. Make a $100 savings deposit on behalf of every child born. It's a deceptively simple idea, which is why I invited Dr. Chowdhry to tell me more about it. So you've got three elements here: the transfer, the idea, and the account. The idea. Which of these elements are you most excited about, or do you think is most important?
I think the integration is most important. I don't want to pick one or the two, but I think really the idea is that access will give rise to other things that the poor people don't have possible in their lives. For instance, imagine trying to deliver aid in time of emergencies. So there's a flood in Bangladesh, and you want to be able to give them access to resources. The usual methods don't really work because we try and send food, supplies, and we try to give it out free, and there's a lot of leakage with corruption and other things. Here, if you have accounts, the money gets zapped into the accounts right away, and people can use that money to buy those services. So I think it is time for experimentation. In many countries, perhaps by giving $100 access, we could actually experiment and see, in fact, do you get more access or not? Do parents come in or not? And once they bring in, can you give them other services or not? So I think we need to try different experiments.
So why don't we just give people money at 16? Maybe start the bank, start the ID in the bank account early on, put $5 in it, and subsidize the bank, give them $5 too, just off the top, and then make the transfers later on in life. And let the government hold on to the money and take advantage of that, having that capital, especially in a capital constrained environment.
Right. So this is where the second part comes in, which is getting an identification in the poor population has always been a hard thing, right? People are not interested, people are afraid. $100 sounds like a big incentive. So here it is, poor parents, they don't even want to get the children registered. The birth certifications are rare in these people, in the poor population. For an incentive of $100, their eyes light up, and they may actually do it. So it's serving two purposes. The initial incentive, the lure of $100, would actually bring the child in, and it will actually bring the mother in as well. So I think it's providing an incentive. It's really a lure to get them into the fold, and once they are there, other things become possible.
This is an idea which is universal in its scope, just like the universal IDs, right? So why make it universal? Why not focus on the poorest 50%?
Okay. I grew up in India, and I've traveled many parts of the country. Anytime you target something, that is a recipe for corruption, because somebody has to then determine who qualifies and who doesn't. The idea of universal access is you don't give power to any bureaucrat or lowly clerk. Everybody gets it, and then those who don't think it's worthwhile can voluntarily give it up. So if I'm a rich person, $100 doesn't mean a lot to me, I can voluntarily forego it. So rather than create a condition in which the poor person has to prove that he or she is poor, we rather make it accessible to everyone and let people opt out. Let people who don't think it's worthwhile, they can opt out.
Although in India, and we've been talking about India, there already are structures like the below the poverty line BPL programs, right, which already have a structure that allows a fairly transparent way of targeting.
Yeah,
are you more skeptical?
I'm more skeptical. I talk to people in India, and I talk to people in the government. Everyone is aware of this problem of corruption, and I think if we are going to design a scheme that is sort of worldwide, where we have to think about many different situations, I think targeting doesn't seem like the right way to go for me.
It's interesting. And in a place like India, a universal approach might make sense. In other countries where there are greater inequalities, let's think about South Africa, for example, okay? Right? Where you could imagine not targeting by individuals, but targeting by communities, say. Would you be more open to targeting in those kinds of environments?
I think it is worth thinking about it. I think it's worth thinking about. I don't want to be dogmatic about it. It's worth thinking about targeting by communities if one could do it. Especially with pilots, we could try it in different regions of the world. I have a little bit of concern about issues of equity there. Why did one community get it and the other community did not? And we deal with these issues even when we do randomized controlled trials. So there's a little bit of concern I have about that, but I think it is worth thinking about.
I'm an economist, you're an economist. Costs and benefits?
Yes.
Benefits, we're going to have to wait and see, but clearly there's a big gap, and filling that gap and doing it systematically could have huge benefits. Costs. Got a price tag on the policy?
No. So, since you're economists, I'll put it in two different ways. The straight away calculation is we're talking about $100 per child. There are 134 million children born.
134 million children born every year.
Everywhere in the world. Imagine 75% of the kids take it. That's 100 million children times $100. That's $10 billion a year. The second thing I want to mention is that even though it looks like a 10 billion price tag, in some sense it's really a transfer. It's not really a cost. It's not $100 is not getting wasted. The governments are basically making a transfer. They're making a commitment to these accounts to sort of prime the pump in some sense. So I don't see that as a cost. I think of this as an investment.